Hi friends! Today we're going to talk about Season 2 of my unexpected hyperfixation from the last 18 months, Our Flag Means Death. Welcome to Cinematire. This is your future. How will you dress it? I'm Samantha Ray. This is a series where I, a fashion designer, discuss what makes for effective or ineffective costuming in TV and movies, usually with a focus on science fiction media. Last time on Samantha Discusses the Gay Pirate Show, of course our lovable goth-apocalyptic Mad Maxian Prince Blackbeard in his crop jacket. Look at his tummy! Like last time, I want to start with some fan art. This fandom is incredibly talented, and it needs to be shouted from the rooftops. Not only do the artists gas each other up, the cast and creators love it openly. You can tell there are nods to certain pieces in Season 2. Our Flag Means Death is a 3-act workplace romantic comedy on the streaming platform Max, with a wonderfully involved cast and crew and a wildly rabid fan base.
How'd you make Jackie so happy?
Oh, hard work. I put my heart, soul, and back into it.
I'm a little bit behind on getting this out when I wanted to because I'm not gonna lie, the fandom's been a little bit intense since the finale, and I wasn't able to get early screeners. As of recording, the SAG-AFTRA strike is still happening, so the actors haven't had a chance to really talk at length about the show.
Hey everyone, producer Drake here. Between the time that Samantha recorded her audio and when I edited this episode, which is Thursday, November 16th, the SAG strike has ended. They got their deal, which is awesome for actors, the industry, and of course for those of us who enjoy what actors do. Super awesome. Samantha would have loved to tell you herself, but she's actually in the final stages of 3D printing a whole new human being, so she's a little busy at the moment. Back to the show.
Things might change after this comes out, so I'm really gonna just kind of go off of my own observations and speculations. I also haven't read any reviews or interviews, so this is just me kind of going off. I genuinely love Season 2. It had heart, it had hurt, fun new characters, and I want to start with what I didn't like about it because I want to end the video positively. Our Flag Means Death is one of my very favorite television shows, and definitely something that's brought a lot of joy into my life in the last year and a half, but because I like something doesn't mean I can't be critical of it. Going into this review, I want you to know that I absolutely love this season. I understand the constraints under which the production happened, and just because I'm critiquing something doesn't mean I don't like it. I just always want things to be better, and I appreciate the hard work and passion that went into making this season. I'm so happy that the people who made it love it as much as the people consuming it. I think part of what bugged me this season is the need to have standout costumes that, like Season 1, are fun to reference, and again, that's okay, but I feel like we had those things last season without it being every look. Every outfit was iconic, and even the ones that were legitimately 18th century silhouettes had memorable details that would make them recognizable, like the purple outfit, or even what Mary was wearing. If we're going to look at the first season versus the second season, and we're going to have things that are references to modern media and the execution, I think comparing the Swede in his Spanish Jackie's outfit to Frenchie on The Revenge is a good start. Frenchie is clearly inspired by Jimi Hendrix and has a bunch of bits and bobs that we definitely see in 18th century clothing. The Swede has a great costume that looks like it's inspired by Prince in a lot of ways, but it also doesn't look like it belongs in the era at all. I love it, don't get me wrong, but there's like a lot of things that I think could be tweaked to get the same effect while making it look like it was made out of things from the era, like Blackbeard's leathers and short tee. I mean, he was supposed to look like Mad Max, but it was all using techniques from back then. Everyone on the Republic of Pirates looks like they're wearing wildly era-inappropriate garments inspired by a trip to Hot Topic or Spencer's Gifts. There's Blood Bucket Bill wearing this terrible collar and really modern glasses, this fishnet shirt kid, and this moto jacket guy who just looks like he's wearing a moto jacket. Like, there's nothing about it that screams 18th century to me. I do kind of love Steak Knife, because he reminds me of the saxophone guy from Lost Boys. He seems out of time and anachronistic without looking completely like a goth club archetype. One thing that's actually driven me a bit nuts about this season is the rise of all the pants. They're far too low. Most of them need to be higher, and it's very distracting. We really only see era-appropriate costumes during the wedding and with Zheng's crew and the Navy uniforms. Ned Lowe's jacket is clearly supposed to make him look like a music conductor, but being a cut from the wrong era, again, mixed with the other costumes, have kind of all over silhouette time-wise, it makes it stand out as incorrect, but not, like, special. I really like the rest of it, especially the textiles used, but there's something about it that just kind of was a little off to me. There are some clothing-based continuity things. When Steed's crew leaves Zheng's ship, they only have the clothes on their back, so where did their clothes come from? Some obviously altered their red flag uniforms, but others fully have new outfits in their correct sizes, like right away, without any time passing for stops or raids. I really like what they're wearing, like especially Olawande, but it doesn't make any sense if there haven't been any stops. Then later, they're running from the Navy on the beach, and they changed into their uniforms directly after stealing them from the Navy dudes. Then after everything, they're all running back in those uniforms, so how did they get their original clothes back? Those clothes should be in piles by Alex Sherman's naked booty. Lucius says jeans in the finale, and we know jeans didn't exist. I know this is the David Jenkins School of Historical Inaccuracies, and usually that's fine, but I feel like that's just too jarring for somebody like me after everything just kind of is anachronistic. He's already wearing pants with a modern silhouette. I think it would have been more funny if he hadn't called them jeans. Like, yeah, they're clearly made of denim, and he's sort of supposed to look like 60s or 70s, but I don't know. Either have the look or call them jeans, not both. Jackie is hands down one of my favorite characters. She looks like a sexy matador, which I'm thinking is a Spanish reference. I don't love the home decorator beads on her epaulets or the red suits. The skirt on the dress is bad, like it's too modern. The slits at the sides, like, yeah, it's sexy, but it just looks like a dress from now. There's nothing about it that makes it look like it's from back then. Like, none of the techniques look like they are from the 18th century. I also love that she styled her navy vest to look like a dress, so that kind of saves it for me. Now, to discuss some, like, more good things that really make me happy, there will be some criticisms in here too, since I want to keep the characters together, but this is mostly what I liked. Anne and Mary have the same kind of cowboy feeling that Calico Jack had, which makes sense since they were all together in history. I like Mary's costume because it feels a lot more like Jack's, and I like the concept of Anne's, but I don't love the fabric the top is made out of. It reminds me of little boy camouflage pajama fabric. The costume itself is fine, but compared to everything else in the show, it looks like it was made specifically for people to be able to cosplay later. Mary's costume reminds me a lot of the Lone Ranger and has really big cowboy energy. It's awesome. Cowboys didn't really exist yet, but I think it really makes the three of them, Jack, Anne, and Mary, completely different than every other pirate we've met, so I love the clever visual shorthand. Also, obviously, Minnie Driver is super hot in this, so, like, that's not even a question.
You appreciate things. You have taste.
I do want to discuss the continued care the props department takes in creating prosthetics for disabled characters. In Season 1, Lucius is newly disabled, and his partner makes a simple yet functional finger for him so he can continue to draw. Jackie has an ornate and functional wooden hand that is as much jewelry as every other piece she wears. I have opinions about why I think people didn't notice her hand was wood, but we can discuss that more on Twitter if you want. Prince Ricky is royalty, so he has a beautiful and ornate nose carved from wood. Then his vanity makes him accept the beautiful porcelain nose, which then in turn opens the opportunity for him to double-cross Zheng. In the preliminary photos, I don't know why I didn't assume Jackie was taking his nose, but I assumed it was syphilis, like the 17th century poet John Wilmot. And of course, how can we forget the olive branch of family acceptance that is Izzy's unicorn leg? It was beautiful and a sweet gesture from the crew, and the care in which it was created is clear from all the behind-the-scenes photos. Last season we see Izzy wearing a ring on his tie, and it's clear it belongs to someone important to him. Back then in an interview, Khan said he knew the story of who that was. This season it's not addressed on screen, and if it was, it's on the cutting room floor. Thanks, Max. But I saw online that costume designer Gypsy Taylor said it belonged to his mother, so part of me wonders if the reason he's ready to go is because he'll be able to see his mother in the afterlife. Zheng Sao is perfect. I love her.
Oh, that guy knows.
I do find it very weird that a lot of people who watch the show had sexualized takes on her pigtails, but didn't mention any of the other women on her ship having pigtails. Nothing she does is that way, so I feel like it's some sort of internalized thing, like people infantilizing and also sexualizing high pigtails where it's not warranted. But I thought the pigtails were fine. I love when she's trying to fix them after fighting. The padded gambeson she, Auntie, and Olawande wear are excellent. I wonder if Olawande is wearing one because she wanted to protect him. Wee John doing more sewing and knitting is a really adorable touch. I like that it's something that's mentioned in season 1 and was really leaned into in fan art and fan fiction, especially in stories that Christian Nairn talks about with his mother. It feels like they really lean hard into this as a gift to the fans, which is great. His Calypso costume I do appreciate because it looks like a modern drag queen look, specifically Divine in the cartoon version of Ursula, which was inspired by Divine, made mostly with old-timey techniques and materials. Parts of it were kind of like Elsa and Disney Live, but it is what it is. He and Izzy having their little drag mom, drag baby moment before makeup and during the performance is so sweet. Izzy's Edith Piaf makeup is A+. The entire Calypso party aesthetically reminded me of the queer coming-of-age movie Ma Vie en Rose that came out when I was in high school. The pinks, the yellow flowers, playing with gender, scream that movie. I also love that Jim gets to have a very IRL Vico drag moment. No, not that. Okay, here we go, right there. Speaking of Jim, I adore the Shibari references in their revenge costume, the suspenders that look a lot like a harness in their normal look. You can really tell how much input the main characters had in their own costumes in instances like this. They've settled into these characters and they have all nurtured them into what they are, and it's beautifully collaborative. Auntie is another favorite of mine. She's so funny. I love her. I love her so much. She has big auntie energy in her leopard print shirt from the suit booth, and I want to know if she carries a big purse. She has a lot of really interesting details in her costumes, and I love how she's dressed. Auntie interacting with Buttons is probably one of my favorite things of the entire season. I just love her so much, and I'm so happy she survived. I want her to become best friends with Fang. I do find it interesting that Fang has way more accessories this season. His outfit is supposed to be ostentatious and aggressive, but he's snuggly, lovey, little gentle teddy bear of a man, and it's smart to put him in intimidating garb. It's really tricky. Buttons is perfect. He's always perfect. That's it.
The she is my love.
Jesus Christ.
I appreciate that Archie has a costume that can be construed as picking up bits and pieces from different people around and altering them, but also that she acts like someone who fully just wandered onto set and is doing their best to fit in while asking zero questions. I love when someone feels like they're just going with the flow. I find it very funny, and I hope that we get to see more of her next season because she has very high roach energy. I love that she's wearing a snakeskin vest.
That's what happens, you know?
Pete is fully just Mac from Always Sunny, a man obsessed with masculinity, learning to let go of toxicity and embrace outside and self-love, while also hating sleeves. Like season 1, all the background characters of Ed's crew look like leather daddies, so that's nice and consistent. And also, can we just talk about the wigs in this show? Okay. There are other shows with like 4 to 5 times the budget that don't have wigs this good. The wig and the wig designer need awards. The fact that this looks like it just grew straight out of Taika's head, it just, especially underwater, I can't. These wigs are so good. It is ridiculous. Last but not least, our love-struck idiots, Ed and Steed, finally reunited after a frustrating amount of misunderstandings. This season, Ed is wearing pearls, which are often seen as a symbol of mourning, and this is a nice and subtle touch. Ed reverting to the cartoonish version of himself was also a brilliant move to show how messed up he is. You know damn well that cat bell was a fan art prompt for the fans. I'm on to you, crew. Painting the cake toppers to look like him and Steed is one of my favorite touches. Seeing the Steed one covered in coal like Ed's been rubbing it on his face is just great, but the costume design of making them look like they would be in that whatever. It's so cute. I love it. If you've been following me here or on Project Runway or follow my fashion in general, you know I am a sucker for a robe. So you bet your butts I'll be making the Afterglow robe. That beautiful Prussian blue velvet and what looks like a pale blue vintage kimono silk dip dyed in purple is a morning after dream, and I want it. All I wanted on Ed this season was a high ponytail, and I got it, so thank you. Ed cleaned up and looking wide-eyed like last season was another nice touch, and that's more of like a styling thing than a costume thing, but he's got a very expressive face, so it's really smart to also then make the hair and clothing expressive. Ed did not wear enough crop tops this season, which is very rude. Free the tummy. Fisherman Ed wearing a very Buttons-esque sailor look was an interesting choice. Also, his penance look and the fisherman look are so pale, which is a huge departure from his black and jewel tones, so I thought that was really interesting too. Now to Steed.
Isn't that the dude who broke my nose jar?
Yes, hi.
The opening scene of episode 1 was clearly a love letter to the fans. Steed has the romance cover costume, the steered, and the slow motion run that so many wanted. His real pirate look is gross, which is great. It shows that finding Edward is more important than his need to preen. Again, the pants waistband is too low, and that is so frustrating, but I love that he looks like he smells terrible. When they find the curse red suit on the Spanish ship, obviously Steed's inner peacock is drawn directly to it. If anything is like season 1, it's probably this. The thing is, though, it's so costumey to me that it feels like something Steed is drawn to because he hasn't been able to wear something decadent in a while. The color is brash in a way that he hasn't worn colors previously. He wears a lot of like bright blues and pastels for the most part. Any of the warmer tones he's worn has been when he was with Mary or when he's sad. Pardon my continued exceptionally bad Spanish pronunciation, but one of the first bullfighters known to be famous for this type of look was Joaquin Casares, and I found a print of him wearing what looks quite a bit like what Steed is wearing. Since this is a 3-act story and we're only on Act 2, I really hope in Act 3 we get a chance to see Steed really dressing the way he wants to. Part of what I loved about Season 1 was him just getting to freely and fully be himself. When he put on the Navy outfit, he had big boss energy. Even though it's a uniform, it definitely changes his posture and gives him an air of confidence. All of the other crew also have the same air about them, and look, we all know it's really hot, alright? But like, I think my favorite costume thing in the whole season isn't just the fact that they all look incredibly attractive in these Navy uniforms. It's the fact that they're all wearing them in their own signature way. Pete is sleeveless, Jackie looks like a hot business lady, Ed puts a hat on and looks like a captain, and so does Zhang. Lucius and Frenchie look exactly like themselves, and so on. This little slow motion montage really shows their personalities. So, what's my overall opinion of the season?
Fine, yeah. Let's do it.
As a show, I loved it. Obviously, season 1 was stronger, and it had this kind of lightning in a bottle that none of us would have expected from a show with such a ridiculous premise, but here we are, 18 months later, and so many of us have only grown to love it more. The renewal was announced around the time the HBO Discovery merger was finished, so we're lucky the show didn't get the axe like a lot of other shows. Oftentimes, queer media gets thrown away even if it has a large viewership in favor of more mainstream things.
Maybe we could avoid that happening here.
You can definitely tell that there were parts where the budget was cut, certain parts of the story felt truncated because certain aspects of the story were important to be told in this act, and the cast and crew worked the best they could with what they had, and I for one appreciate the care that went into it. I've seen shows with budget cuts just kind of not care about their fan base at all, and just sort of try and get to the end of the story or figure out a cash grab. This was obviously a labor of love for every single person involved, the fans included.
I was all in, mate. I was all in.
That being said, when you change costume designers from season to season, it shouldn't be so jarringly different that it changes the world. Especially in a short period of time. It got to the point where because everything was special, nothing was special. There were very few instances where some things stood out to me, and it was usually because it didn't fit within the confines of the world. The reason why season 1 worked as well as it did was because it felt like the 1700s, and every nod or reference or anachronism just felt like an inside joke for the audience. This just felt like they were doing kind of whatever. And I'll be honest, I know this is gonna be a confusing take, but the costumes themselves were actually really beautifully designed and really well made, but maybe just not for this show. I hope we can find a middle ground next season because I think it would really benefit the world building and the storytelling.
You have impeccable balance, babe.
Now a couple of questions to ask you, my friends. Did the Swede get ripped by giving Jackie massages? What's the significance of Hornigold making the sandals? Who slashed Izzy's face?
Hold me close and hold me fast.
Why is episode 6 perfect? Is Steak Knife inspired by Saxophone Guy? Now go forth and find yourself someone who loves you as much as Roach loves soup. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Cinematire. Of course, there are things that I'm not going to dive into this video because first and foremost, it's a costume review, and I've got to tell you, it's taking all of my willpower not to discuss all of my favorite things about the series. But I am very active on Twitter. I'm not calling it X, and I love to talk about this stuff with fellow pirates. I only ask that we be kind to each other, because at the end of the day, that's all we got. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up. Feel free to comment, suggest something for me to review, and if you want to know when new videos are coming out, consider subscribing. If you want to see behind the scenes stuff and episodes before everyone else, please subscribe to my Patreon. Information is in the description. I'm going to be on maternity leave midwinter, so please feel free to check out my Amazon affiliate link in the description since my web shop will be shut down for a little bit. Thank you to my amazing patrons who help with the channel. I adore you, and I couldn't do this without you. And just a special little thank you to the friends I've made in the Our Flag Means Death fandom. I met you guys after a pretty terrifying health scare last year when the show came out, and you've given me a lot of hope and confidence, and I'm incredibly grateful for you. Until next time, be fancy, be adventurous. In memory of Izzy, Steak Knife, Zheng's crew, and Jackie's husbands.
I pray to you, Dark Lord, to make me real flesh